So we continue our journey really through this long prologue, this long discussion from Jesus about the Eucharist, this incredible gift that he gives us at Mass, the gift that he's pouring out his disciples. And there's two phrases that struck my heart this week, one from the first reading, one from the Gospel. And it's food for the journey and life for the world. And that Jesus gives us his very self as food for our journey and then life for the world. That first kind of phrase comes from the first reading, which I love. I always love when a prophet in the Old Testament is at a point of like strong frustration or disgruntlement. Elijah certainly deserves it. He's being persecuted, he's being chased after, but he has kind of that moment where he throws up his arms in the air. Take me now, Lord, I'm done. I'm done. I have this image of my mother when me and my two sisters were driving her up a wall. On a good day, when we were driving her up a wall, it was, God, give me strength. On a bad day, when we were driving her up the wall, it was, take me now, Lord. So I've had that same prophetic utterance from my parent in her vocation, as Elijah gives in his vocation as well. And there's that cry of desperation, that need. It almost flows like a commercial for Snickers after that, where the angel comes and it's like, Elijah, you're not the same when you're hungry. Here, have this hearth cake and drink. And he needs this food, this sustenance to continue the journey, this little bit to keep him going, this nourishment, not from the world, but from heaven. The angel comes and gives him this food, this special food. This will give you the strength that you need when everything's falling apart, when you're at your wit's end, when you've tried to do everything but have failed. This is what you need to move forward, to take that next step. That beautiful gift that Jesus gives us each and every weekend, maybe even each and every day in the Mass and the Eucharist, giving us himself, this food from heaven. When we're at our low point, when we're in the point where we are struggling to figure out what the next step is in our vocation or our calling, when we're pulling out our hair because of kids or parents or work or school, Jesus Christ gives us this gift. Here, take and eat. Get up. The journey is ahead. I will walk with you in that. Food for the journey, this incredible gift. And then we hear life for the world. And this motto is the whole phrase that the United States has been using for this push to rediscover our love for the Eucharist. My flesh for the life of the world, that Jesus speaks in the gospel today, which I think is this beautiful reminder that as we receive his body and blood at Mass today, it's life for us and for everyone else in here and out there. It makes me think of really the gift of marriage and family and how I've encountered it as a priest. There's always that moment where as a priest you're standing before a couple saying their vows to each other on their wedding day, or beautifully like when the groom first sees his bride kind of turn the corner and they start to break down, this beautiful emotional moment where they have encountered this love for each other that's so powerful. It almost like leaks out of them. It flows out. And you can see it, that everybody sitting in the pew, like at that wedding, you can encounter it, and this love enters into everyone else's life. This life that the couple is experiencing somehow reinvigorates our lives. We share in their joy. We share in their excitement. The similar thing, I was at dinner the other day with a young married couple, and the dad's kind of bouncing one of his kids on his leg and just kind of gives him a little kiss on the top of his head, this brief little moment of intimacy and love that just flows out to everyone at the table, like the beauty and gift of family there in this moment. Same thing at my previous parish, I had an older couple. They had been married for, I think, 60 years, and they wanted to renew their vows and to see the love that they still had for each other, the excitement they still had on this long journey, and the way they could kind of playfully make fun of each other's little habits, but also just rejoice in the fact that they still got to share in those habits. This beautiful love and joy they had in their love brought me joy as well. We can become a window to something beautiful going on in our spiritual life and share it with others. Now, we can also become a wall. I'm sure there's been times where we've seen families, or perhaps you've seen priests, where that joy is not there, or there's this heaviness or this weight, and you can kind of say like, okay, I can say, see a family that's young crazy or at each other's throats or picking at each other and say, ooh, okay, I'm glad I'm celibate. Perhaps you see a priest where, every homily, every action is just so full of like boredom or dryness, and you're like, okay, Father, all right, maybe time to find a new gig. We can become a wall in those moments. Certainly no one here. We can become a wall to the grace. Even if there is love there, even if there is grace there, we can become an obstacle for others encountering it because of our gunk. We can become a window or a wall for that life flowing out to the rest of the world. And so I think my invitation here today, as we prepare once again to receive the Eucharist at this altar, I think we're invited really 2 points in prayer as we prepare for the Eucharist today. I think the first is like thinking of that image of Elijah. Are there moments or are there places in your life where you're experiencing that dryness, where you're experiencing exhaustion, frustration, confusion, where you're ready to kind of throw up your arms and say, Lord, I'm done, take me now? That's the place where the Lord wants to bring his life, his grace, his body and blood. It wants to go to that place where it most needs nourishment to give you food for the journey, to share his life with you. Where is that place most in need of his nourishment and life? And then second, as we receive that life, as we receive that grace, are we allowing that to flow from our hearts to the rest of the world? Are we a window to the love and life of Jesus Christ, or are we a wall? As we go to our cars in the parking lot, are we a window or a wall to Jesus Christ? As we go to brunch, as we enter into the week of work and school, are we sharing that grace with others, or are we somehow clouding it with our own sin or weakness? To bring that to Jesus and allow him to transform it here today as well. And now, once again, we prepare our hearts as we conclude the liturgy of the Word and enter into the liturgy of the Eucharist. Once again, Jesus comes to us, body and blood, soul and divinity, in the Eucharist. And as we come forward to receive him today, can we allow him to become food for our journey and life for our hearts and life for the world?